The Veiltheri Sanctuary had seen many dying things. Tucked into the frost-bitten cliffs of the Ashenvale Mountains, the sanctuary was the galaxy's most prestigious center for draconic preservation, staffed by 12 certified Veiltheri physicians, 3 xenobiologists from the Interplanetary Medical Consortium, and 1 human maintenance worker named Noah Mercer, who mostly fixed pipes and swept floors and was absolutely not supposed to be in Wing 7. And yet, the hatchling, tagged in the sanctuary's records as Specimen 7 Ember, Ignis Draconi, critical, had crawled past every physician in the room. She had done it slowly. Painfully. Her ember-orange scales had gone the color of ash at the edges, and each movement of her tiny limbs left a faint scorch mark on the stone floor. The Veiltheri physicians stood in a semicircle, their long silver instruments raised, their diagnoses already uploaded to the consortium's cloud database. They had numbers. They had protocols. They had a combined 467 years of draconic medical experience. Ember had crawled past all of them. She had dragged herself, 6 kilograms of fading fire and stubborn wool, across 11 meters of cold sanctuary floor, bypassing species-certified healers, and pressed her snout against the boot of a 31-year-old human from Dayton, Ohio, who was holding a mop. Noah Mercer looked down. "Hey, little one," he said. The head physician, Dr. Vane Sorrell, was the first to speak. "She is delirious," Vane announced, with the calm authority of someone who had never once in his life been wrong about anything medical. Ignis hatchlings in terminal decline often exhibit nonsensical locomotive behavior. The nervous system deteriorates before the cardiac cluster. She is not choosing. She is simply moving. "She stopped moving," said Noah. This was true. Ember had stopped exactly at Noah's feet and was now looking up at him with enormous, half-lidded golden eyes that seemed, despite everything, completely deliberate. "She's looking at me," Noah added. "Optical reflexes," said the second physician, Dr. Thessaly Morn, not looking up from her tablet. "The pupils are still responsive to heat signatures. You are warm. She is orienting to warmth. It is instinct. Nothing more." Noah crouched down. He set the mop aside gently, so it didn't clatter, and held out one hand, palm up, the way you would for a dog you'd never met. "You're not supposed to touch her," Vane said immediately. "Human skin chemistry is incompatible with Ignis scale membrane during a thermal crisis. You could accelerate the deterioration." "I'm not touching her," Noah said. "I'm just here." Ember put her head on his hand. Silence collapsed over Wing 7 like a physical thing. The instruments kept beeping. The temperature readouts kept climbing. And the 12 physicians of the Veiltheri Sanctuary stood and stared at a dragon hatchling who had chosen, with what little agency she had left in her fading body, to rest her head in the palm of an uncertified, untrained, thoroughly ordinary human being. "She is going to die," Vane said, quieter now. "Her core temperature is dropping. There is nothing to be done. The consortium protocol is clear: we document the decline, we do not interfere with the natural." "She's cold?" Noah said. "Her internal flame is extinguishing, yes. The Ignis species generates heat internally. When that system fails..." "Can I warm her?" Another silence. Different from the first one. "You are not a physician," Thessaly said. "I know," said Noah. "I'm asking if I can hold her." What happened next was not in any medical protocol. Noah Mercer sat down on the cold sanctuary floor, in his work uniform, with his mop abandoned beside him, and lifted a dying dragon hatchling into his lap. He held her the way you hold something that might shatter, carefully, completely, with both hands and his whole attention. He was warm. Humans ran hot, 37 degrees Celsius, a biological furnace wrapped in soft, strange, hairless skin. He curled around Ember the way a larger creature might curl around something small, and he started talking, low and steady, the way his grandmother had once talked to him when he was 6 and sick with fever and terrified of the dark. He told her about Dayton, Ohio. He told her about his grandmother's kitchen, which smelled like cinnamon and old books, and the way the afternoon light came through the yellow curtains. He told her about the creek behind the house where he used to catch frogs. He told her about the summer he was 12 and built a terrible birdhouse that fell apart in the first rain and how he'd cried about it, actually cried, because he'd tried so hard and it hadn't been enough, but then the next summer he built a better one, and birds came. He talked because silence felt wrong. He talked because she was alive and something alive deserved to be accompanied by sound and warmth and presence, even if, especially if, it couldn't last much longer. The physicians watched. They didn't know what to do with this. Nothing in their training covered it. The consortium database had 4.2 million entries on draconic physiology, and not one of them addressed a human sitting on the floor of Wing 7 talking about frogs. But Thessaly, after a long moment, pulled up the thermal readouts on her tablet. She stared. Her core temperature, she said, slowly, has stabilized. Vane was at her side in an instant. He looked at the numbers. He looked at Ember, who had tucked her small head under Noah's chin and whose ash-pale scales had begun, barely, to show the faintest trace of orange again. That's not possible, he said. And yet, said Thessaly. The Veiltheri physicians had a word, Vainthori, that translated roughly as the knowledge that arrives without teaching. It was considered mythological. A relic of old draconic lore, pre-scientific, the kind of thing serious medical practitioners didn't discuss at conferences. It meant the wisdom a creature carries in its blood that no instrument can measure. Ignis hatchlings, according to pre-scientific draconic tradition, could sense it in others. The Vainthori. Not intelligence. Not power. Something quieter, the quality of being genuinely, completely present with another living thing without needing anything back from it. Modern medicine had dismissed this. Modern medicine had also just watched a dying dragon hatchling crawl past 12 certified physicians to reach a maintenance worker from Ohio. Noah didn't know any of this. He just kept talking. He told Ember about the birdhouse. He told her about his first day at the sanctuary, how intimidating the mountains had looked, how he'd burned his lunch in the staff kitchen and the smell had set off the fire suppression system and he'd been so embarrassed he'd considered quitting. He told her it had gotten better. That most things, given time and warmth and the simple company of another breathing creature, had a way of getting better. Her scales, by the time he reached that part of the story, had gone fully orange again. Not the dimmed, fading orange of the morning. Bright. Warm. The color of something deciding to stay. Dr. Thessaly Morn filed a report to the Interplanetary Medical Consortium that caused 6 weeks of extremely uncomfortable academic debate. She documented everything. The controlled failure of all standard interventions. The hatchling's deliberate locomotion. The thermal stabilization. The recovery. She included the thermal imaging, the timestamps, the complete readout record showing the exact moment Ember's core temperature had stopped dropping. She also included, in the appendix, at some professional risk to herself, a section titled, On the Limitations of Instrument-Based Assessment in Evaluating Non-Quantifiable Biological Bonds. It was the most downloaded paper in the consortium's history that year. Noah Mercer was given a new title at the sanctuary. Not physician. Not specialist. The Veiltheri had no existing word for what he was, so they made one. Vainthori Keeper. Roughly translated, the one who stays. Ember grew. Not quickly, Ignis dragons took centuries to reach full size, and Ember was only 6 months old when she had crawled across that floor. But she grew steadily, healthily, in the way of a creature that had decided, with the full weight of draconic conviction, that there was something worth staying alive for. She slept, when she slept, in the maintenance room off Wing 7. Curled on a heat-resistant mat that Noah had ordered from off-world suppliers with his own salary, because the sanctuary hadn't budgeted for it and he wasn't waiting for a committee meeting. She followed him on his rounds. A small, ember-colored shadow at his heels, investigating mop buckets and rattling pipes with equal, fearless curiosity. And sometimes, when the sanctuary was quiet and the mountains were dark and the stars above the Ashenvale were very clear, Noah would sit with her on the stone steps outside and talk, low and steady, about nothing in particular. About Dayton. About birdhouses. About the way most things, given warmth and time and company, had a way of getting better. Ember would listen, golden eyes half closed, smoke curling lazily from her nostrils. She had chosen him on the worst day of her small life, with all the clarity of a creature who could not afford to be wrong. She had not been wrong.